and with our wonderful guest, Dr. Sherrill Sellman, who has so graciously joined us from Australia, where it's very early in the morning. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful as people are streaming into our loving room, the loving room at Rhythmia, where we get to love you up and be loved. So I want to tell you, while people are joining us, before I introduce Dr. Sellman, I want to tell you what's going on at Rhythmia. We're open. We are having great retreats. We have really, I think, one of the most amazing COVID protocols that I've ever seen in terms of allowing you to have a safe experience at Rhythmia. The first thing we do is we test everybody before they get on campus, before you check in. You are tested. So everyone on property has been tested and is COVID free. And then we do multiple checks throughout the week. And we keep it a closed or limited access campus so that there's not a lot of egress and regress, so that we keep everyone safe during the week. This allows us to have a pre-COVID experience at Rhythmia. You can hug people and sit in class and dine with them because you know everyone's been tested and it's safe. So I want to encourage you to call the number below and investigate a little bit about coming down to Rhythmia, because it's at times like these that we retreat to move forward, that we retreat to anchor into the truth so that we can go out and be a beneficial presence on the planet. Speaking of beneficial presences on the planet, Dr. Sherrill Sellman, I want to tell you a little bit about this beautiful being that we have, and you're going to find out a lot more about her. Dr. Sellman is a neuropathic doctor, board certified with integrative medicine, and is an educator, women's natural health expert, psychotherapist, and journalist in the field of women's health. She is passionate in her advocacy for regaining hormonal health naturally for women of all ages. And so welcome, Dr. Sherrill Sellman. So nice to have you.
Well, hola and g'day, mate.
There we go. Good eye, right? Where in Australia are you?
I am on the Sunshine Coast, where, and if people are not familiar with Australia, that's about an hour and a half north of Brisbane, in a beautiful subtropical part of the country. Lots of sunshine all the time.
Beautiful.
A lot like Costa Rica, actually.
I've never been to Australia, and I look forward to that opportunity. And it sounds beautiful. Tell us what led you there?
Oh, it's been many years. I'm actually a permanent resident, and I came here to teach about 40 years ago, I think it was. And yeah.
So you were like 3 or 4 years old.
Yes, I was just a small little tyke. And I loved it, and I stayed. So yeah, so I lived here for about 18 years, spent some of my time here in Brisbane, and then I went to Melbourne, Australia, which is the big city, big smoke. And I wrote a very successful book here that took me all over the country. So I was blessed, and I've traveled every city in Australia. And then I went back to the States. So now I have the best of both worlds. I have permanent residency, and I can live here, and I can live back in the States. And that's what I've been doing.
That is beautiful, living the life that you love. And you know, for people that are joining and don't know, you know, I've had this wonderful experience of you at Rhythmia many times, as you've brought wonderful groups down to the center and teach there. You're one of our favorite guest speakers that comes down and shares your wisdom with not only naturopathic medicine, neuropathic medicine, and psychology, psychotherapy, but with the plant medicine. So tell us a little bit about your journey of awakening. And I know that there's many little awakenings along the way, but what would you share to give people a sense of who you are and what you do on the planet?
Oh gosh, so much to share. Well, I'll tell you my first journey of awakening, and it was a long time ago. It was when I was in the university, and I was in my senior year. It was coming to an end. Well, actually, it was the end of the first semester. I was forlorn. I was depressed. I didn't know what my life was going to be. I had no direction. It felt like I was leaving the ivory tower, and I didn't know where I was going. And so that was the state I was in. And I had this spontaneous awakening. It was like a peak experience, I would call it, because I woke up one morning and I felt like the blinds had been pulled, and I saw a reality that was filled with love. That's all I could say. God is love. God is love.
Wow.
And it was this spontaneous event. I really had no preparation for it. I didn't know what was happening, but I lived in this state of just amazing love and connection. And that went on. That was not drug induced, by the way. That was just
Just
the
God.
soul. It was the
Yes.
soul saying it's time, and it led me on a journey that I continue to this day. So during that experience, which I think maybe lasted a month, I had no sense of time really, and then
Mm.
that window closed, and it left my, you would say, ego totally shattered, because all of a sudden I was awakened to a new reality. I wasn't who I thought I was. Life
Mm.
wasn't what it appeared to be. And it began this journey to reclaim that connection. And that made my choices for the rest of my life.
Mm.
That's seeking, that yearning to reconnect. I didn't know what even that meant. I mean, it took me to India. I lived in a community in India. I lived in a mud hut. I lived in a community in Scotland called Fintorn, spiritual community there. I mean, I was on this journey in search of this experience. And it looked like many things until I realized that it isn't about having an experience. It's just about feeling this connection all the time to yourself in
Mm.
peace. It's
And,
interesting.
and you said that after this sort of Satori experience, right? This instant demonstration of love that you felt, then that aligned the rest of the choices for you on
Yeah.
seeking. Tell us more about that.
Well, it did. It was when you have an experience like that, nothing else is important anymore,
Mm.
other
Mm.
than being in that presence, experiencing that presence. And up until that point, I really didn't know what I was going to do. Was it, grad school? I didn't have a strong direction at all. And after that experience, there was only one thing I was seeking, and that was the path, the spiritual path, to not just have that experience again, but to be in that reality, to establish it as my ground of being. And I was young. I didn't really understand so much of what that meant. I thought it meant having lots of peak experiences, or going to an ashram and, having this guru touch you and have the samadhi. But it isn't that at all. And it took me a while in this search, as we all do when we have an awakening moment, to understand what it is we are awakening to. What
Yes.
is required of us, and what is a spiritual journey? What is a spiritual life? And we have a lot of preconceptions, right? A lot of pictures we have. And generally, it's none of those pictures. We just have to find the path as it unfolds. So, because of that moment, that time and space when I had that experience, everything became dedicated to that. Every choice I made afterwards became dedicated or was the result of that yearning inside. So it took me to many places, many countries, many cultures, many experiences around the world. And it really was the unknown revealing itself, because I didn't have a set career I was going after. All I knew is I wanted to serve in some way, but I wasn't sure what that was. It took me quite a few years to find it.
Well, you have certainly found the way to be of service. I know not only through your writing, your personal work with individual clients and the groups that you travel with and work with. I want to find out more about the work you do. And while we're talking about that, I'd love to encourage the folks that are watching, if I can, Dr. Sellman, encourage them to ask some questions, because we have this amazing being who you have so much knowledge, so much a wealth to share and bring to bear through your experiences and the work that you do. So as we're talking more about what Dr. Sellman does, please feel free to type in some questions and we'll respond. What kind of work do you do with your individual clients? Tell us about your daily, professional practice and some other aspects of how you serve now.
Well, I've done many things. You may not know this, John, but I would say 30 years ago, I introduced rebirthing into Australia. So, rebirthing is the father of transformational breath work.
Yes.
And I came to Australia to actually introduce rebirthing, to teach rebirthing, to train rebirthers. I had a practice with breath work, and that consumed me for a really long time.
Mm.
And then I went on and learned more skills as a psychotherapist. So I was doing a practice as a psychotherapist, mind body approach, very profound work and helping people to really make deep changes. And and then I started from Australia taking groups of people to a Hawaiian healing center. So I went to Kauai and worked with a healer there, a wonderful woman, Auntie Angeline, at her center. And I would take groups and we would do these 10-day cleanses. And when I was in Hawaii, Auntie Angeline was talking about the feminine, the power of the feminine. And it really began a journey of understanding the power, the feminine power, what it means to really tap into our feminine power. And so that led me to exploring what goes on with women, what goes on in our bodies, what goes on during menopause, what is the real power that women have, and how can we reclaim it. And that led to writing a book from my research called Hormone Heresy: What Women Must Know About Their Hormones. And that was the book that became a best selling book here in Australia and other places. It's been translated in several languages. So it was a journey of empowering women. And then I went on and became a naturopathic doctor after doing that, because I was really delving more deeply into health and combining um, uh, the understanding of, from my psychotherapy point of view, of understanding the healing that needs to happen, and then understanding more deeply the power of the feminine, understanding what that was, journeying into the feminine and moving into supporting women and being empowered and how to reclaim hormonal balance naturally, and understanding their bodies and loving their bodies. And and the journey continues into rejuvenation. It's like every stage of life that I've been through, I've learned and healed from, and delved deeply into understanding, so I can share it with other women. And every stage has its gifts, and it's an ongoing process, right? So now I'm really fascinated by the world of rejuvenation, regeneration, how we can get younger and healthier, which is what I am doing in my own life and
Yes.
researching for myself and sharing. So the journey just goes on and on. There's just wonderful things to learn and miracles to be had and healing to be created, and just keep expanding all the time.
What are your insights around rejuvenation? And while I know you work focused primarily on women, but I know
But
that
not
you
anymore. Now I include men.
wonderful.
You're
Well,
welcome.
I'm so grateful. I am. So to share with us your insights on rejuvenation, and are you working with individual clients on this, or is your individual client work still more therapy, and you do more like classes and things with the
Um,
rejuvenation?
well, I do work one on one, so that's easy because we do it virtually, obviously,
Yes.
and uh, mostly just I've been doing writing and researching, and I do some consultations as well. Yeah, I find rejuvenation and rejuvenating and regenerating, as I like to call it, a fascinating topic, because there's a little phrase I have that we can get younger and healthier as we get older. So that's my motto. We can get younger and healthier as we get older, but it takes a commitment. It takes a commitment to start wherever you are right now, because the more you commit to your health and well being now, as you move through the years, you'll stay healthy and vital and young. But it doesn't really matter where you are if you are willing to work with the changes physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It is a full dynamic process,
Yes.
right? And that kind of brings me to why I investigated plant medicine, which was 6 years ago. I've done many programs. I'm sure you can understand that, John. We've invested a lot of time, energy, and
Yes.
money in our personal development programs. And I arrived at a place where I felt, I couldn't go any further. It's like I was at the outer boundaries of this reality, but but I wanted to know what was beyond what I knew. It's like I
Mm,
wanted to explore that which I didn't know.
yes.
What you don't know, you don't know.
Yes.
So that's what attracted me to plant medicine. I read an article that someone wrote about an experience they had in Peru in the Amazon, and I said, I'm going. That was it. So I organized a few friends to take this adventure with me. And that was 6 years ago. So we went down to the Amazon and went to a small center on a tributary of the Amazon in the wet season. And, we no electricity, on stilts in the middle of the jungle. And we worked with the Shipibo people, the
Mhm.
Shipibo shaman down there. And that was a profound experience. It was profound because I felt um, that the plant medicine can take us to a level of healing that you can't do with the mind.
Yes.
Basically, you can't do it with the mind. You know what? The sun's come in. Just give me a moment.
I can see you certainly are in the Sunshine Coast. It has come in.
It's very bright.
Yes.
um, so, uh, yeah. So I wanted to go beyond the mind because you can't tap into that real connection with the mind. You have to go beyond the mind. You have to go beyond the belief systems that we have. And as enlightened as the mind may be, it's still often it's the veil. So we
Yes.
need to still go beyond. And that was really how I arrived at medicine and why I continue to do it these many years. It's been going on my 6th year that I've been involved with plant medicine.
I love what you said about going beyond what we know, what we don't go into the realm of what we don't know, we don't know. The true void, the true unknown. And then as you continue to talk about your plant medicine experiences, that the tool of plant medicine helps us get beyond the mind, because the mind is made up of experience, our memory, et cetera, is made up of experiences of the past, and therefore it is only provides us what we know, or even what we know we don't know, but not what we don't know we don't know. And so how do you see, I mean, I definitely feel and know that plant medicine moves us into the different dimensions of knowledge, and we can access this realm of knowledge beyond knowing. How would you explain your experiences around that, and what
Mhm.
insights and how have you integrated that into the realm of what's known?
Okay, so here's the thought that came to me as you're speaking, and what really is my understanding these days, whether it comes to healing from a health condition, whether it's healing of a relationship issue, anything, anything. So it involves incorporating a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual dynamic, every aspect of our being. But what plant medicine really offers is healing the trauma, because you cannot rejuvenate, you cannot heal anything, be it your body or a relationship, if you're carrying unresolved emotional wounds, because they are the source that program our cells.
Hmm.
And they are often unconscious emotional wounds. So you try to dig for them and you try to, access them, and maybe you do to a certain extent, but it's like totally rewiring the brain. How do you totally rewire the brain through a new perception away from the trauma into a place of peace and love? That's really the goal of psychotherapy. We do that through naturopathic medicine. You bring the body into harmony, but we all carry our emotional wounds. Some are deeper than others, and we carry emotional wounds not just from this lifetime. We carry emotional wounds from other lifetimes and other memories. So the true healing, the true key to rejuvenation, John, the true key to rejuvenation is being able to, heal that wound, resolve that misperception, I call it, that trauma that we have, which results in the brain totally changing, totally rewiring. We're out of that so-called default mode, where we can have a new perception of reality, a new perception of ourself. So that is why plant medicine is so powerful, because it is one of the most effective tools that I have personally experienced, I have witnessed, that can facilitate that degree of transformation profoundly, quickly, and permanently for people.
You said that so beautifully, the unresolved emotional wounds and this movement towards peace and love, which is truly what plant medicine does. Now, from a neuropsychology, naturopathic point of view, what have you found out about the physical effects of plant medicine, physically rewiring the brain, as well as that movement towards peace and love? But I'd love to know your insights around the physicality of the plant medicine.
Well, there's so much research going on with ayahuasca right now.
Yes.
And I have interviewed lots of people on my podcast who've been involved with plant medicine, and including one of my favorites, which is Alberto Villoldo.
I love him.
Yeah, Alberto's wonderful, who did a lot of work early on with plant medicine. I don't think he's so involved right now, but he made an amazing documentary with plant medicine, and he went into great detail on how it alters the brain and the neurotransmitters and releases serotonin. And the plant medicine is literally creating new neurons in the brain, and also allowing the brain to fire in new ways. So when you open up to that light, to that spiritual center through the DMT process, which is what the plant really is offering us, it's a slow release of DMT, right? You are having such profound healings, and everyone has their own unique healing. No one has the same experience, which is always a challenge to communicate when we do the ceremonies, right? Because everyone is expecting something or wishing they had what someone else had, and yet it's tailored to our perfect needs if we just surrender and allow the process to unfold. But it is and I also want to say, John, my experience when a person makes the commitment to come to a center or a retreat center, whatever it may be, but in this case with Rhythmia, from the moment that decision is made, the process begins.
Yes.
Of change and healing. And when you actually arrive on the property, every moment of that week is part of the healing process that is going on. So it's not just in ceremony, it's at a ceremony, it's every conversation, it's everything that happens is this journey that is unfolding out of your intention to heal and to be have a greater connection, be of greater service. So it's a beautiful process, and that's what's happening when we do that. The brain is literally, as our perceptions shift, our brain rewires in new ways.
Yes.
And if you reinforce it, when you reinforce it, for some people, the change is so profound, they maintain it long term. But for most of us, it's initiated, and then we need to reinforce it by practices, by what we do with our speech, what we do in our work, with the actions. It has to be reinforced, strengthening those new connections and building more.
Yes. I want to follow up on this thread of circling back with rejuvenation and anti-aging and longevity and the rewiring of the brain. I don't want to lose that thread, but I also noticed a comment from Amanda Rose saying, after doing research, I heard it's also scary as well as healing. And obviously I have an idea of how to respond to that, but I'd love for you to respond to what would you share with Amanda around that comment?
I would say anyone who is committed to awakening to themselves becomes the spiritual warrior. And if you choose to be a spiritual warrior, You have to face your darkness. You have to face your fear. You have to step out of the known, move into the unknown. And that's always accompanied by the emotion of fear in humans, most humans.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, it's scary. Even, I've done many, many journeys now, John, and still there's a moment of trepidation because you are letting go of the known. You're letting go and you are
Yes.
surrendering to a greater wisdom. And you have to trust in that
Yes.
self that's brought you here. And you cannot live an enlightened life trying to stay safe.
I love that. May I add something to that? Um, that this search, the classic hero's journey is there's that a point in the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell talks about it, where the hero leaves the community, leaves the sense of safety, moves through a series of events, overcoming obstacles, gaining skills and talents. And then there's a moment where there's a regression. And the hero on their journey actually is more powerful than they've ever been. They have more skills and have activated more potential. And yet there's something at that moment in the journey that seems unconquerable. Oh, it's the dragon that they can't slay. It's that thing that on the other that seems so powerful, but on the other side of it, we see it wasn't even there at all. It wasn't even real. And so I would add that to Amanda's question is that what's being revealed, what's being like the medicine is a sacred mirror that reflects and reveals the things within us that are seeking to be healed. So it's only a reflection of ourselves. And what's coming up is actually being taken away. It's actually being released. So it's not that you see something and it's scary and it's disturbing and now it's glommed onto you. You see something, it might be disturbing. You don't have to attach to it, but observe it and watch it, as Emerson says, return to the bloated nothingness from which it emerged. Um,
Yeah, I want to say when your pain has reached a point where everywhere you go, you feel like you're hitting walls,
mm,
it's time to transform. It's the gift. And when that pain is so strong that your desire for peace, is emerging, and that, to take that leap of faith, which isn't really a leap of faith, it just appears to be a leap of faith. It's really being guided. That's liberation. So pain is pushing us to break out. And you have
yes.
to have the courage. You have to have the courage and the trust. And the beautiful thing about the environment at Rhythmia is that it has such safety. There's such a feeling of trust, and you're really held and supported and cared for. And that is what's so necessary because it's a spiritual midwifery experience.
Yes.
You are in many ways being reborn, and it's a very beautiful but delicate and sensitive time, and you want to be held with a lot of safety and love. This is deep work, and it's not for everyone, but it's profound because on the other side, you might say, if it's a metaphor, um, but through this work, you can live your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You can be free. There's a beautiful documentary, and I interviewed the producer of this documentary. And what she did was interview two vets who had severe PTSD. And the first part of the documentary, she looked into their lives and how PTSD, which so many of us have, even though we haven't been through war, but we still have
Mm-hmm.
PTSD, um, and how this experience of PTSD was affecting their relationships, affecting their children, affecting their health, affecting just every aspect of their lives. And you really got to see what it means to have PTSD and the ramifications. So she went through the lives of these two men, and then they she followed them to doing ceremonies with ayahuasca. And the interesting thing was, and I asked her, but you interviewed them when they still had PTSD. How did you know that doing ayahuasca was going to make any positive change? She goes, oh, we didn't. We just trusted.
Mm-hmm.
So you see them do this journey and several journeys, and then you followed them for over a year afterwards. These men were totally healed of their PTSD. Their
Mm.
lives were totally changed. Their relationships were healed. They found a true direction and spirit for their lives. It's such a profound movie, but it's a profound metaphor for the rest of us.
Yes. That and will you extend that metaphor for us? Tell us.
Well, well, it's a metaphor that we all live with unless we do the healing work, unless we delve deeply and have to face the emotional pain that is part of the human experience. Some of us have tremendous abuse in our background. Some of us, it feels that way, even though it may not be perceived by others, right? But it's still, there are wounds that happen. And unless we're willing to understand that these are opportunities, that these can be healed, they can be resolved, we can live free from
Yes.
them, that
Yes.
they are the grist for the mill, that hero's
Yes.
journey. That's a level of awakening. Not everyone has that awareness. A lot of people succumb to their wounds and never know that there's a way out of that darkness or a way out of that prison. There is a way out of the prison. In fact, it was set up for us to find our way out of the
Yes.
prison, but we need to have the courage and to do the work. So it's meditation, it's reading, it's doing a course, and it's a journey that begins to unfold. And that's the only journey that really is worth taking in our lives. It's not about the money and the job and the great relationship with the car. That fades away. There's only one thing that really is important, and that is the journey to reconnect to the true essence, the truth of who you are,
Mm.
the truth of who you are.
Profoundly said. So beautifully said. The only thing, that I hesitate to say the only thing that matters, but really, I came to that conclusion myself. The only thing that really excites me is my own spiritual growth and development and walking that path with others. You
And
know?
and but John, the other point that's so exciting is the more we get in alignment with our true essence, the more everything we want comes.
Yes. Yes.
We're not giving up anything. We're just giving up the struggle and the
Yes.
pain and the suffering.
I have, you so beautifully articulated this. I'd like to add one piece about rhythmia and in general, as a extended metaphor on this journey that you've talked about, and I'll simply remind everyone of the story of Ulysses in the Odyssey. And if you recall, Ulysses um, is coming back from Troy, and he has to go through the straits of the Sirens, and the Sirens are those mythical feminine sea creatures that cause the sailors to crash their ships on the shore or to jump in the water and drown. And the myth says that no man can resist the call of the Sirens. But if any man could, they would lose their power. And Ulysses, if you recall, decides he wants to hear the sirens. He wants to face these demons, right? And he tells his men to tie him to the mast of the ship and to not untie him, no matter what he says, no matter what he commands, until they reach a safe spot. And he tells his men to put wax in their ears so that they don't hear the sirens, that they can continue to journey. But Ulysses wants to hear. And what does he do? He creates a structure. He knows it's going to be uncomfortable, but he creates a structure that supports him in getting to the other side. And lo and behold, those sirens lost their power. And I feel that's what you've been talking about, Dr. Sellman, is the PTSD, the trauma, the victimhood, the things that are stopping us, that we perceive are keeping us from our good, those sirens, our own personal sirens that call us off course, lose their power when we create structures that support us in
Our growth
our growth. And
and
rhythmia,
transformation.
exactly, rhythmia provides that, working with neuropathic doctor, working with therapist, doing retreats, your sacred study, your service, I think, is another big piece. These are all structures that help us on our journey and help support us as we keeping us from being distracted on our way.
And I would say that is the purpose for which Rhythmia was created.
Hmm. Yes. And you've had some wonderful, you've brought great groups to Rhythmia. And can you compare and contrast your experience a little bit between that, really cool jungle experience you took years ago and the experience that you have at Rhythmia? Maybe kind of give
Well,
people a little difference between the two.
when you're talking to someone who lived for a couple of years in a mud hut, you have to understand that I like it rough and
Ah,
and natural, right? But it's not everyone's cup of
yeah.
tea. So
Wait,
after
you
going,
lived for years in a mud hut?
yeah, I did mud hut thatched roof in India. Yeah,
Wow.
in
You're
South
cool,
India.
Dr. Selman.
Yeah, yeah. No shoes, no electricity, no running water. One of the best places I ever lived.
Wow.
My own little mud hut. Truly. And but getting to Peru is not easy. It's a difficult journey. It's a long way to get to Peru, and especially to get into the Amazon. And then when you are there, it's an Amazon experience. So I was going to go back, but I watched The Reality of Truth, and there was that introduction to Rhythmia in the very beginning, and I went, "Wow, that looks kind of interesting. Looks like it could be a cool place to go to." And that's how I found out about Rhythmia, and I decided that in order to inspire people to come along on this journey, going to a place that was, upmarket, beautifully air conditioned, beautiful food, pool, Costa Rica, easy to get to, lavish. I thought this would be a better place because it's easier for people to get to. It's so much more attractive than jungle experience, living in this gorgeous environment. And that's where that journey led me is to Rhythmia. So this is the 5th year that I will be
Oh,
returning with a group of people and also to teach at the same time. So I was with Rhythmia in the very beginning,
yes, you were.
very beginning.
And in terms of the support, I think it's important for people to know this, as we're talking about Ulysses and the structures that he created to support himself on his spiritual journey, this metaphor of the spiritual journey, that Rhythmia really does provide so much more. Not only like we have an amazing guest speaker, Dr. Sherrill Sellman coming, we have the jungle experiences there. You are in Costa Rica, you do, but you also have the Western medicine in a clinic on property, as well as the Shipibo tradition shamans that are there. So it's this merger of Western comfort, Western medicine, Western techniques, and ancient tradition, ancient practice that I think provides a very unique setting for people. As you said, Dr. Selman, if you are truly interested in transformation, all of the constituent parts are there, ready for you to take advantage of.
So I just want to add to that, John, because you said things that jogged my memory about why I wanted to go to Rhythmia as well. You go into a jungle experience and you're just really, truly, entering the unknown. But in Rhythmia, first of all, it's the only medically licensed plant medicine center in the world. So that creates a great deal of support and safety, and often is necessary. It's really helpful because you're assessed. And, I remember that when I took my first group, there was a wonderful gentleman who came who just had a heart attack. Now, he was initially coming to accompany his wife, and then by the time he got there, he said, "Okay, I'm going to do this," and then he couldn't. And
Hmm.
then he couldn't do the medicine because of being assessed. And if you had gone to other places, I'm not sure they would have given him that caveat. But I just want to say, so he could not do the medicine that entire week. However, he did the breath sessions. And in his first breath session, he had such a profound experience. It was like Mother Ayahuasca came to him in his breath
Mm-hmm.
session.
Yes.
And from that experience, and then he did the other rest of the protocol, the program over the week, but no medicine, he totally transformed. He totally transformed. The relationship totally transformed. He and his wife have been back many times with me. They become transformational breath therapists now. But he never did the medicine,
Wonderful.
John.
Wow.
He just was in that environment. But it was the safety from knowing that you had this, the doctors and the clinics and the assessments, and if you're feeling a little queasy or get tired or dehydrated, they're there
Right.
to take care of you. And I've seen them. I mean, they're on call 24 hours a day. I have seen, that staff help people in all sorts of ways. That's a container. That's a really powerful container for people who want to venture in with plant medicine, because when people finally arrive at doing plant medicine, they've done a lot of research already. They've read
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of stories, and some of them are quite extreme and some of them are quite beautiful. So, you have certain level of anxiety of what is my experience going to be, right? How is it going to happen? And to have that, first of all, knowing that you have that clinic there with all the help and the assessment is really important. The other thing that I never got when I was in Peru was a detailed step-by-step explanation of the journey that you
Mm.
will be encountering. So there are all these initial introductory classes and then support that actually lay out the groundwork. They give you the guidance of how to manage it, what you may be experiencing. If you experience this is, what is the best way to deal with it. So you are as prepared as you can possibly be to venture on this journey.
Thank you for that. I agree with you, obviously, and I'm so proud of what we offer, and that we have amazing people like you that get to come, that I get to work with. I get to meet and speak, and now, after all these years, consider you my friend, and I'm grateful. You know, uh, I you've been so gracious in sharing about your experience at Rhythmia. I want you to share with our audience about your book, your radio program, what you're up to in the world. Can you give us a summary of all the ways in which you are expressing your gifts and talents in life?
Absolutely. Well, I have two podcasts, and so one of them is called What Women Must Know. And that is where I get to interview. It's not just for women, by the way, but but it's been that name for
It'd
about
be
20,
good
20
if men
years.
knew what women need to know too. We'd
It's
probably.
always good. I always, it's true. It's a great advantage. Yeah, I've been doing that for over 15 years. And I have another podcast that I started a couple of years ago called The Love Code, and you were recently a guest on The Love Code.
Yes,
And
it was
that's a more
wonderful.
spiritual orientation. What Women Must Know is more about health and just personal transformation. Just anyone who I think has something worthy to say and that I want to learn from, I invite. And The Love Code is definitely to uplift and transform and inspire, and we have spiritual conversations. And both of those are on a network called Progressive Radio Network out of New York. But the best way to get to it is to just go to my Facebook page, which is What Women Must Know. So you can go there. I post my shows every week there, or people can go to my website, which is Dr. Sherrill Sellman, and you can opt in there and they get sent out along with all the other goodies that I send out every once in a while. Um, so those are shows that I'm really dedicated to. Into my fifth book. I've written five books, but Hormone Heresy was the one that I wrote many years ago. It's been revised many, many times, and it's still as relevant and important for women and even men to learn as ever, because I have found that women are still so misinformed about their own bodies and natural ways to heal, to get into hormonal balance without the
Mhm.
need for any pharmaceutical drugs.
Yes.
And the more we learn about that, in my experience, the more we really connect with our true power as women. So that has always been a passion of mine, is finding that within myself and then sharing it. How to be empowered? How do we find our true power? And I would just let all the women listening, a hint is you've got to get connected and aligned with your own hormonal flows. The more we understand our cycle, whether it's our menstrual cycle or whether it's the lunar cycle, the more we will be able to find our authentic selves. So when we are medicated in any way, we're disconnected.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. And you're leading. You're coming to Rhythmia in
May 9th.
May 9th. So you can come
May
see
9th.
Dr. Sellman that week. Call the number below to book with her. And she's an amazing guest speaker and always a great week when you're there.
Yeah, I have some wonderful things planned because we're going to be talking about rejuvenating and the keys to rejuvenation and look at practical ways to rejuvenate, regenerate, and to heal. So it's always a great time to be there. It's a lot of fun. It incorporates with what we're doing during that week and all the
Yes.
journeys, but just adds more support.
Well, Dr. Sellman, it is an honor and a privilege to know you, to have had these years together at Rhythmia, and I look forward to many more. I thank you for the generosity of your time today, and I'm looking forward to being with you at Rhythmia in May, and encourage everyone to check out the podcasts and whatwomenmustknow.com. Is that the website?
It's drsherrillsellman.com,
Okay.
but What Women Must Know is the Facebook page.
Okay, is the Facebook page. Wonderful. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's always a distinct honor and privilege that I get to do this. Wow, I'm really grateful. So peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Sellman, and we'll see you
Thank
soon.
you, John.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Adios.